If you are a Kamala Harris supporter, if you can say something that changes my mind, my perspective, I'll vote for Kamala. I will.
I appreciate the open-mindedness, Bryce. Here's a quick list. Kamala supports expanding healthcare access to all Americans. Trump said for 4 years he had a plan, but it never materialized. Meanwhile, during her time as VP, Harris oversaw expansions of Medicaid, caps on drug prices for seniors, and medical debt no longer affecting credit scores. As president, she would also support legislation to ensure no American was uninsured. As VP, she announced almost $300 million in funding for public schools to hire and train mental health professionals. She also supports tax credits for working-class families, a policy that cut childhood poverty in half. You might be wondering about the inflation and economic difficulty we've seen over the last 4 years, but the US is actually outperforming much of the developed world economically, and we're on track for a historic economic recovery. To be honest though, the downturn and recovery don't have much to do with who's in office. And in fact, Trump's plans for tariffs in a second term would skyrocket inflation even after the COVID recovery. Speaking of Trump, voting for him is a bad idea. He's the only president in American history to not concede after losing an election. He engaged in straight-up fraud to try and flip the results, and he even wanted to deploy the military after he lost. For all his talk about immigration, he personally sabotaged a bill that would have made things better at the border, and that's according to other Republicans. Out of 44 members of his cabinet, the people who worked closest to him, only 4 have endorsed him. His own vice president said Trump wanted to put himself above the Constitution, which isn't hard to believe since he called for terminating it. None of this means Kamala doesn't have flaws, but her presidency would likely do more good than harm, while Trump's would pose a danger to the very foundation of this country.